So with everything that's gone on this week, what with the European Super League, the protest against the club owners, it was easy to forget that there was actually a match on. It was really good of the players to forget there was a match on as well. This is the Arsenal versus Everton match review. Hello, my name is Richard. Welcome back to my channel over and over and over again. In this video, I'm going to look back on last night's home defeat against Everton at the Emirates Stadium. Another really poor performance at home from this Arsenal team. It seems to have been constant throughout the whole season, doesn't it? I'm going to look at the team lineups. I'm going to talk about the performance itself, and then I'm going to try and select a man of the match. Just before I get into all that, I want to make sure that you are subscribing to my channel. If you enjoy what I do, please click the subscribe button down in the corner there. It is completely free of charge. It does help the channel to reach a larger audience. If you've got any comments at all about the performance last night or anything else to do with Arsenal, please drop me in the comments box below, as I do love to hear from you guys as well. So in terms of the lineup for Arsenal, then there wasn't that many surprises, was there really? I was personally disappointed to see Martinelli drop back down to the bench. It was Eddie Nketiah who came in for the injured Alexander Lacazette. So this was how we lined up. It was Bernd Leno in goal, back of course following his rest last week against Fulham. The back four, it was Chambers was back in at right back. The two centre backs were Holding and Mari, and Xhaka was again filling in at left back, following his decent performances in that position in the last 2 or 3 games. The two midfield were Thomas Partey and Dani Ceballos. And then in the front four, it was Saka on the right, Pepe on the left, Smith Rowe in the number 10 position. As I said, Eddie Nketiah was through the middle. So Martinelli was on the bench alongside Nelson, Willian, and Odegaard as well was fit enough to make the bench, which was good news. In terms of Everton then, again, not really too many surprises from their starting lineup. Dominic Calvert-Lewin was back fit following his recent injury problem. So they lined up like this. It was Jordan Pickford in goal. Their back four was Coleman, Godfrey, Holgate and Digne. The two in midfield were Alan and Gomez. And then their front four was Sigurdsson, Richarlison, Rodriguez, and of course Calvert-Lewin, as I say, up front. Alexander Iwobi, of course, our former player, was on the bench alongside Bernard as well for Everton. So they were your lineups for this game. It's easy to blame VAR again, isn't it, for a very poor decision to wipe out the penalty. In fact, we didn't even really know whether or not the penalty would have been given. It looked very soft, didn't it, in the replays? Very similar, actually, to the penalty that Fulham got last week. And in fact, the similarities with that incident in this one were startling, wasn't they? Obviously, a slight offside, a doubt in the build-up. Of course, last week against Fulham, it was Lookman, wasn't it? His hand was slightly offside, but they didn't deem that to be relevant because you can't score with your hand. Whereas this week, it was Pepe's elbow. I wasn't aware you could score with your elbow either, but there you go. It would have been nice to have seen what VAR would have made of the actual penalty decision itself. The foul by Richarlison on Dani Ceballos. I say it did look very soft. Very similar to that Fulham one last week, which wasn't overturned, was it, on the VAR? So I would have liked to have seen the decision they came up with on that one. But anyway, we can't blame that. This was another really poor performance. We had a lot of possession of the ball, yes, and that's great. But when it's just in front of the opposition, we're going backwards and sideways. We wasn't getting in behind them. We didn't cause him too many problems. Yes, Everton defended well. But how many shots did Jordan Pickford have to make? Apart from one at the very end of the game, a really good save actually from Martinelli. He didn't have anything to do, did he, Jordan Pickford? And that's because we're not creating chances. In the first half of the season when this was happening, everybody was saying, well, it's because Smith Rowe's not in the team. Well, Smith Rowe was in the team last night and we still didn't create anything. Odegaard came on off the bench as well. Again, we still didn't create anything. There's problems in this team, and it's not just about individual players. I think it's the setup of the team. I think it's the motivation, and I think it's the tactics. I don't think the players are buying into it at all. Yes, we had Aubameyang and Lacazette both out for this game. Our two top scorers this season. In fact, they've been our two main goal scorers for the last 2 or 3 seasons, haven't they? And I think any team would struggle. But ultimately, if you're not creating chances, you're not going to score goals regardless of who is playing up front. Yes, Eddie Nketiah maybe doesn't offer us enough. I compare him actually to Francis Jeffers, a very similar sort of player, another player who didn't really make it at Arsenal. And unfortunately, I don't think Eddie's good enough either. A lovely lad, and I hope he has a great career. I don't think it's going to be with Arsenal. We've got to look at Mikel Arteta, quite honestly, haven't we? I think he's shown this season that his inexperience has come to the fore, and he's just not able to get the best out of the players that he's got. Yes, we've got injuries, we've got players missing, and there are, of course, some big gaps in the squad, particularly in midfield, as you can see. When Xhaka's not in there, then we do lack some some balance in the midfield area, and you could see that again last night. But this was a really, really poor performance from Arsenal. Let's not make any excuses about it. The VAR thing is an easy excuse to make. What I didn't like was the fact that once again Mikel Arteta has come out after the game saying that we were the better team and we should have won. I totally disagree. We played into Everton's hands. It was comfortable for them. They kept a clean sheet away from home, and their goalkeeper only had to work once, and that was in the very last minute of the game. So no, we didn't play well. We wasn't the better team, and we didn't deserve to win. We had a lot of possession of the ball, but it was comfortable possession as far as Everton were concerned, and they looked a lot more threatening on the break. In fact, in the first half, they had all of the clear-cut chances, didn't they? And although we played slightly better in the second half, we still didn't create enough. And it's once again another really, really disappointing performance. 7 home defeats in the Premier League this season, more than any other season in the Premier League. And in fact, I think it's the most we've lost at home in a single season since the 1930s. That's 9 in total if you include the cup competitions as well. It's just nowhere near good enough, is it? We can't score goals. The football is slow and it's boring. And there's only one man to blame for that, and that's Mikel Arteta. And unless we win the Europa League, I don't want him in charge of this club next season. So, I mean, how can you pick a man in a match from another really, really poor performance? Bernd Leno in goal, of course. I mean, it was his fault, wasn't it, for the goal? Really, really poor. He didn't have a lot to do, did he, apart from that? But he's got to be doing better with that. That's a Sunday League mistake, isn't it? And a top international goalkeeper should not be making a mistake like that. So, really, really poor from him. Defensively, again, we wasn't massively tested. Callum Chambers got forward well at times, put a couple of good crosses in. I don't think he's really good enough. I can't understand why Cedric hasn't been playing at right back, a natural right back who's played well when he's had the opportunity. The centre-backs are Rob Holding and Pablo Mari. Very surprised that Rob Holding was given a captain's armband. It just goes to show how many problems there are at this club. When Granit Xhaka's on the pitch, he should have been the captain in this game, regardless of what the fans think about that. You pick the best man for the job, and Granit Xhaka is the best man in this current group of players. So that was a terrible decision again by Arteta. I thought Rob Holding played okay, let's be fair, but he's not the captain of this team, and he shouldn't have been wearing the armband. Pablo Mari did okay, not his greatest game, but he did okay in the circumstances. And Granit Xhaka, of course, he was caught out a little bit for the goal, but you can see what Everton did. Carlo Ancelotti, experienced manager, he told Richarlison to attack Granit Xhaka because he knows he's not a left back, and that's what came about for the goal. He dived in too easily. An experienced left back would have obviously stood him up and made Richarlison do a lot more than he had to do to get the cross in. So yeah, it was poor from Granit Xhaka there. I don't blame him. He's playing out of position, and he's done okay in that position up until now. The two in midfield, Partey and Ceballos, it's not really worked at all, that partnership. In any game, it's not really worked, has it? Thomas Partey again was really, really poor. Big signing under Mikel Arteta, and he's been very disappointing. Yes, he's had injuries, and yes, he has played better recently, but he's nowhere near what we expected. He's had plenty of time to adapt now, hasn't he? He's played most games, certainly this year. He's just not been producing good enough performances on a consistent basis. Dani Ceballos just isn't good enough for this club, is he? I'm sorry, he's just not good enough, and let's hope that we don't extend his loan or even try to sign him at the end of the season. The front four, it wasn't their night, was it? We just didn't get in behind Everton at all. We made it far too easy for them. Saka and Smith Rowe look like they're running out of steam a little bit, running out of legs. They could probably both do with a bit more of a rest, but of course, without them in this team, we would be even worse, and that's saying something, isn't it? So you can see that they're maybe not quite firing on all cylinders at the moment. I thought Nketiah up front, as I said earlier, I don't think he's good enough. Unfortunately, you know, he works hard, but he's just not a good enough player for what we need as a backup striker. So again, he was really, really poor. So for me, I can only give the man of the match to one player, and even he didn't have a great game, but I'm going to give it to Nicolas Pepe. I just felt as though at least he was trying. He was maybe the one player in our attacking four who looked like he was a constant threat and looked like he could have made something happen. It didn't quite work out for him, and he was quite frustrating at times as well, giving the ball away and not always being direct. But I felt he kept going, and he probably was the best of what was a really, really poor performance. So for me, the man of the match last night, I'm going to give it to Nicolas Pepe. So again, it's just not good enough, is it? Mikel Arteta's got to take a long, hard look at himself. He can't keep coming out with his comments that he's happy with the performance and we deserve to win, when home game after home game, we're just not playing well. That's 5 home games in a row now without a victory since the North London derby, and every single one of those games we've been dreadful. We were fortunate to get a draw last week against Fulham in the 97th minute. We lost to Liverpool, of course, recently as well. Olympiacos, really, really poor performances at home. We're not scoring goals, and it's embarrassing to watch. Everyone's making protests about the owners out, and yes, I think the owners of this club are one of the biggest problems, and there's no doubt about that. But also as well, another big problem is the manager. And until we get an experienced manager in who can deal with the stuff he's got to deal with at the club, we're not going to progress. When Everton put Carlo Ancelotti in place was the same time that we took on Mikel Arteta. You could see last night how organised Everton were, and here they are on the brink of the top four, 2 points off the top four now they are, and you can see the difference that it makes having a great manager in. You can't tell me that they've got a better squad of players than us, because I don't believe they have, but they've got a manager who understands what it takes to be successful and win football matches, and I'll never quite understand why we didn't try to get the right manager in at that particular time. So that's my review there of last night's really disappointing home defeat against Everton. I say a 7th home defeat in the Premier League this season. It's just not good enough, is it? And improvements need to be made. Of course, our next game is a semi-final of the Europa League, isn't it? Away, Villarreal, of course, against Unai Emery. That's going to be interesting, isn't it? The manager who maybe was deemed not good enough despite getting better results than Mikel Arteta. I'm sure he's going to have a point to prove. And Arteta now's got to have a point to prove as well, isn't he? It's not good enough how we've been playing. Everything now is on these 2 legs of the semi-final. And if we don't get through, I do believe it has to be goodbye, Mikel Arteta. Stay tuned to the channel. I will be having some good stuff this week as we look ahead to the Villarreal semi-final. I'm also going to focus on some stuff from history as well. Obviously, April and May are good months in the season, aren't they, where a lot of trophies have been decided over the years. There's a lot of good stuff to look back on over the years from the days here at Highbury. Of course, as you can see behind me, I still miss this place and wish we'd never had to move. But anyway, that's for another video. So please stay tuned to the channel. If you enjoy it, please click on the subscribe button down in the corner there. So it's free of charge. It helps the channel reach a larger audience. If you got any comments at all about the performance yesterday, what did you make of it all? What did you make of the protest as well? Personally, I can't see it making any difference to the end result. The Cronkies will sell when they want to sell for their business model, not because a few thousand fans turn up and protest. They know how the fans feel and they don't care. For me, the most important issue at the moment is what's going on the pitch, and that's what needs to improve initially. And if we get these new owners in place at some point, even better. But for me, the immediate concern is this absolute dross on the pitch, and it needs to change, and it needs to change quickly. Let me know what you think in the comments. It is nice to hear from you guys as well. I say stay tuned to the channel because I've got some good stuff coming up this week. Looking ahead to a big European semi-final. There's not been enough of those over the years for Arsenal, has there? So it's a big game. We need to look forward to that and hopefully put these poor recent league performances behind us. And of course, away from home, we have been a lot better. So maybe that's an advantage for us going there on Thursday. But that's all to come. So stay tuned. Please subscribe. Please like. Please comment. And in the meantime, of course, as always, as we head towards the biggest game of the season again, we say this a lot at the moment, but this one definitely is. Come on, you Gunners!